I'd like to welcome everybody back to Alabama Care. Today we are at the Lakeshore Foundation, and we're going to be talking about recreation and athletics. And at this point, I'd like our guests to introduce themselves. Mrs. Perry, if you would introduce yourself.
All right. Well, hello again. My name is Lauren Perry. I am a rec and athletics coordinator here at Lakeshore Foundation. I also coach our prep wheelchair basketball team and manage both of our junior wheelchair basketball teams and our track and field, archery, and swim team. And I've been here for about 8 years. And actually, I'm from the Birmingham area. I'll pass it over to Rob Welty.
My name is Rob. Wheelchair. I've been here for just over 6 years. Originally from California, and I coach our adult wheelchair basketball team, our archery team, our power soccer team, and I'm with rec and athletics on a daily basis.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Isia Jenkins. I'm a rec and athletics specialist here at Lakeshore. I've been here since June of last year, and I currently work with our youth daily programming, bocce, and power soccer.
Thank you very much.
I'm Caroline Hudlow. I am a recreation and athletics specialist here. I've been here since May of last year. I'm originally from New Orleans, and I work with adult daily program, and I'm the tournament director for the Demolition Derby wheelchair rugby tournament in February.
Thank you, everyone, for the introductions and for being here with us today. Now, I do want to ask how you came to be involved at Lakeshore, because just from speaking with everybody, I have a family member that is a member of Lakeshore. The community here is awesome to be, for my aunt to come here, for me to be a family member, be able to attend with her, but also to work here at Lakeshore. Seems like a very rewarding and fun job. I would like you guys to go over how you guys got your foot in the door and started working with Lakeshore.
So I guess I'll start. So I actually went down to the University of South Alabama and got a degree in therapeutic recreation. While at South Alabama, we used to come, and most of you may know, it's down in Mobile, but we used to come back to Birmingham and volunteer quite a bit with Lakeshore Foundation with some of the events and tournaments and things that they were running. My first tournament here, I fell in love. I've had a background of sports. But just seeing wheelchair basketball and wheelchair and rugby and things like that, I fell in love. And at that moment, I knew that this was the place that I wanted to be at. And so right after graduation, started working here part-time during the summer, which we hire a lot of part-time staff to help out with a lot of our events during the summer. So started working part-time. And then that part-time job led to a full-time job here within our rec and athletics department.
Yeah. So it was, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity. Well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
So I want to see if there are some common themes here.
So I actually played wheelchair basketball in high school, and I actually knew about Lakeshore because our nationals was actually here. And so knew about Lakeshore as a kid. Then I went to college in Wisconsin, graduated, went back to California, and I applied for a job, and 6 years later, it's awesome.
Now, was there a specific... Oh, we'll keep going. I'm going to come back there.
I first found my passion for working with individuals with disability in high school. One of my senior groups, we did a volunteer project, and we helped to build an accessible playground at a local preschool. So that's how I found my passion for working with individuals with disabilities. And then I went off to UAH, University of Alabama in Huntsville, and I did my internship with our wheelchair basketball team. And my professor, Dr. Kyle, he brought me down to one of the tournaments, and that's when I was introduced to Lakeshore.
Very cool.
So I was at LSU and majored in sport administration. And so we had a professional development class, and I got introduced to wheelchair tennis and interned with the wheelchair tennis group in Baton Rouge and helped run the international tournament. And I had met people along the way, and they kind of said, "Have you ever heard of Lakeshore?" And I came and visited when I was up here for my cousin's wedding. And then I guess 2 years later, I had no idea, but I was talking, I guess, to the right people, and they said, "There's a job open, apply." And I applied and have been here since right after graduation.
Yeah, that's amazing. So a common theme that I'm hearing is you each had experience at Lakeshore before really applying for that job, whether that's through volunteering at some of the camps or some of the tournaments, or being involved here locally, or taking the time out of a regular visit to a cousin's wedding to go in and experience Lakeshore. Was there a certain time during that visit that you were like, yes, this is definitely where I want to be?
I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were volunteering, we were working the tables, and like I said, I've been involved in sports all my life. And just seeing individuals with disabilities, growing up, I haven't had that much experience with someone with a disability, and just being here and experiencing that, it was just like, wow, like these people are so athletic, and I love sport, and this is just what I want to be around. And just seeing how hard they work, and wheelchair basketball is, probably harder than stand-up basketball.
Yeah.
And the work that they put in, and just seeing how competitive that sport is, I fell in love, and I was like, this is where I gotta be. So
That's amazing.
Sorry, the question again?
Yeah. I want to comment really quick. So, Mr. Bob Lujano, are you guys familiar with Mr. Lujano?
definitely.
He is a Paralympian, and I believe won the bronze back in '04. I hope I got that year right.
Yeah.
But we did a broadcast, and he introduced me to wheelchair rugby, and actually had an opportunity to sit in a chair and kind of do some passing with him. It's so much core, just like the balance there and using your body, and how do you like make that chair an extension of yourself. And then I was watching all the Paralympic, wheelchair rugby finals there, and we didn't win, but seeing those sports is, I don't think a lot of people appreciate just, how unique and how tough it is. If you would talk a little bit about that.
Yes. There's
a wide open question there.
There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, you want to be one with your chair. You train just as much as someone without a disability. There's just a lot of training that goes on, and you want to make sure that you are in your chair. And the chair specifications are a lot of times for that athlete. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Now, we have a few of our guests here that are quite celebrated in their sports as well. Would anybody like to talk a little bit about some past accomplishments that have to do with recreation and athletics?
So as I mentioned in the beginning, I do coach our prep team, which is age 13 and under, within the prep division of the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. And we just recently had our nationals, the 2020-2021 nationals, and we did win first place in our division. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty great accomplishment.
Heck yeah.
And we our adult Division III team is also national champions from last year. Super exciting, and it was a great experience.
It's fun to compete at those levels. Do you guys, have you had any experience? I know you said you played, you were quite active in sports.
Yeah, I played volleyball and basketball. I didn't quite compete on the highest level, as they just mentioned, but I played in high school, and I guess my cool fact would be that I played varsity volleyball all 4 years of high school. So
Nice.
Pretty cool. Was there anything that you enjoyed doing along those lines?
I played soccer, but if I'm being honest, I sat the bench. So
Well, it's fun. That'll kind of segue us in why I think organized sports are so important, especially growing up, is that it teaches you to be a part of a team. It teaches you to work together, to lose together, how to overcome that loss. And those qualities, even if sports aren't the biggest thing, I think it's so important to get involved at a young age to teach you those things, because it goes on into the work environment when you get older. My sport growing up was wrestling. So I competed at D1. Didn't make it to nationals, but it was a fun thing. Some of my best friends, we would bloody each other up in the practice room. Just going really hard. And as soon as the whistle stopped, it's like, let's go grab dinner, and we're best friends. But what you learn out there on the court and in the practice room, I think is really important for growth there. Would you guys like to speak on kind of that blanket statement? Or what do you guys see when others join organized sports here at Lakeshore?
So especially with Lakeshore, in sports in general, I think it's great for the athletes. I've seen a lot of kids, working with kids with disabilities, Some of them feel like they don't fit in at school with their friends because they have a disability. But especially when they come here to Lakeshore, that's not the case. You have people here who have similar disabilities to you, and you can play sports together. And I know I've had one kid on my team who, wasn't comfortable with their disability, hadn't played sports before, but when they found wheelchair basketball, it was like, oh my goodness, I love this. And they've made so many friends. And with wheelchair basketball and sports, adaptive sports in general, you have to play teams around the nation. There are not a lot of teams within your area. And so you've seen kids that they will make so many friends. For example, living in Birmingham and making friends who live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And that is just a huge self-esteem booster for those kids. So you guys can speak to the adults.
It's the camaraderie, the hard work, goal setting, finding that spark and that passion and that love for something that you really want. And you go through the tough times and accomplishing your goals, or if they don't happen, there's always next year. And I just think always striving for always being better, and also meeting new people and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Those leadership skills.
I just want to piggyback off what they said. I definitely agree that sports can teach so many lessons outside of the fact of the physical. So just not like, oh, I'm in shape, I'm working out, but it also speaks to, as we mentioned before, like working with others or learning your personal best and learning how to achieve new goals and accept challenges. And I would say from my time here, I've just been able to be in relationships with people that I would not have met otherwise. And it's always fun to be able to find similarities with people that you don't think you would ever be able to like fit in with, or you don't think you have anything in common, but through sport we're able to build those connections and relationships.
Exactly.
I mean, they kind of said it all. I think that's the only thing that I also would add is that it helps with time management skills. And that was one of the biggest things that my coach pushed on us when we were growing up. And so, it gives the kids a factor of accountability. So like they do need to get their schoolwork done. They do need to make sure they have everything done at home so that they can come and practice and so that they can go and travel. So, I mean, and you meet so many incredible people that you wouldn't think that you would, like you said, ever meet and have similarities with. And that's just something that is so special about this place.
And I think the accountability there was something, whenever I was in season, my grades went up. Even though my schedule became more filled, it was kind of like being a little bit more strict on my time, and my grades always went up. When I had time to kind of do other things, my grades went down. I got into trouble. But if I had to go practice, it kind of made sure that I did everything else there. And you guys were kind of saying like, you can work out and go lift and be healthy in that way, but there is something else with organized sports that you have that camaraderie there. And I think we've all kind of felt that a little bit in the last 2 years of just kind of being isolated a little bit more than we're used to. I know it's taken a toll on me. I like being around other people. I like talking with other people. And when we first went in like quarantine and lockdown, I was like, depression hit, I was like, I don't like this at all. I got to get back. I play hockey now. I was like, I got to get back out on the ice. I miss my buddies. I miss hitting people, scoring goals, that kind of thing. And I always, if I see like a young, I'm not a father, I'm not a parent, but if I see kids and parents and they're like, yeah, they're just crazy bouncing off the walls. I'm like, well, what sport do they play? They're like, they don't play a sport. I'm like, you need to get them in a sport right now. So very cool. Now you mentioned that, a lot of the teams that you play typically aren't local, that you guys do a decent amount of traveling for competitions. How many teams or how many times do you travel throughout the year? And what does that look like when you get there? Is it a big tournament just in one day? If someone's thinking about getting involved and they're like, well, I'm not sure, the time commitment for traveling or what that looks like. If you could describe that to somebody.
So you want me to start it or you?
You can start it off.
Okay.
You got this.
All right. So like I said, I coach our youth. And so with our travel, we travel, probably about 4 or 5 times a season. There'll be weekend trips, and it is hard with these kids being in school, so we do work with their schools and give them letters explaining, what they're doing as far as the organized sports. And so we will travel to a city, for example, Atlanta, and we would leave that Friday and come back Sunday and have games on Saturday and Sunday. Each tournament, you may have between 4 to 6 games a tournament. And one of the things with Lakeshore, and I guess Rob can speak more to this, is that, we understand like that travel commitment, it is a lot and can be big on financially tough. But Lakeshore does help with athletes and their travel. And there are a lot of grants out there as well to help with travel and things like that.
So some of those grants could go towards mileage reimbursement or even a hotel?
Yeah. So with Lakeshore, as long as the athletes are independent to travel with teams, we actually will take the entire team and travel together on a bus. And we provide the hotel rooms for them. They have to cover their meals, of course. But other than that, we cover those things. But as far as someone who isn't able to travel with us, we do have funds and grants that we would reimburse their hotels or their mileage and things like that.
Yeah, because that can get up. I mean, if you're doing it 4 to 6 times, a season, that's $2,000.
Yeah.
Could get up to $2,000.
Yeah.
So that can add up there. Anything that we haven't talked about there?
There's also Challenged Athletes Foundation we're lucky and fortunate enough to have chairs that someone coming in can use a chair that's not necessarily exactly fit for them, but Challenged Athletes Foundation, they can apply for a grant to get equipment or travel funds and stuff like that. So, yeah.
That is very cool. We're going to put that in the link in the chat, so anybody can click on that there. Now, when you go to these, how many individuals are on a team? Does that vary by sport?
It does vary
So
by
power
sport.
soccer, it's played 4-on-4. Basketball, and so there's less. I'm new to the sport, so this is my first year coaching, but there can be less. And then basketball, typically, it varies as well. So
5 to 12 on basketball.
So
if we say like 10 individuals per sport, per team, kind of that thing.
Yeah.
So when you're going to these tournaments and events, or people are coming here, you've got 6-7 teams, something like that. So about 70 athletes at each event. What are some of the accommodations like that Lakeshore does for people that are coming into town?
I can take that. I'm doing that right now. So we usually will have a host hotel, and so we'll make a contract and they book on their own, but we just have a block set aside, and then we will provide transportation to and from the host hotel.
Kind of like a bus.
Yes,
thing everybody can get
we'll
on.
bring our trailers so that chairs can come and go as they need to. And we'll provide lunches sometimes, depending on the tournament, depending on how long the tournament is. So like my tournament is a 3-day tournament, so we will provide more than say a 1-day tournament. So it kind of varies with the tournament or
But
the event. But
it's not like competing teams are coming in from North Carolina and they're not sure what's going on. There's a good communication between Lakeshore,
absolutely.
the tournament, and all
The
participants.
tournament
and their
director
families.
for any tournament is in constant communication, and especially with COVID and the rising numbers, I've had multiple teams reach out trying to figure out what is going on and how the accommodations do, like if they change at all.
Yeah.
So,
What have you guys seen over the last 2 years? What's been different with COVID in these tournaments and competing?
I'm probably not the best person to ask.
So one of the things that has been different with COVID, some of the tournaments have been smaller due to the rising number in cases and things like that.
Now, is that Lakeshore or the tournament director saying, hey, we need to limit the amount of teams?
So
or is,
it depends on the organization and the tournament. So yeah, it depends on them. One of the other things is normally a lot of tournaments provide meals, and as of right now, not to have people in a small area, so tournaments may not provide meals. They'll give you a list of places where you can get meals, but just not providing them right there, and making sure that everyone is masked, and checking, of course, statuses of exposure and things like that.
yeah. Have you guys? Oh, go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Have you guys noticed that a number of athletes are being cautious, saying they don't want to be involved right now?
In the beginning, those numbers were high. I think right now everybody's taking the precautions that they need to, as far as being masked, vaccinations, and things like that, and trying to stay pretty safe. So we've kind of gotten back to our regular number.
It's like a balancing act, because in the beginning, like I was like, I'm not going to go play hockey. There are people around me that if I got it, I think I could battle it pretty well. But there are other people in my life that would have a little bit more challenges with it. And then it kind of got out of that, and it's like, I need to go back to hockey. I need to have that sanity and that outlet for myself. Have you noticed, like for my family member, if she isn't as active for a period of time and she hasn't been coming to Lakeshore, and that's been the decision of the team for her not to be here right now, but I know when she comes back, there's going to be a loss of her abilities for what she was, just if you stopped working out for 2 years. Are you guys seeing that in some of the sports as well, where it's like, we got to catch you back up?
In the beginning, especially with our youth, getting them back active and in their chairs, and just, working on those basic skills. So kind of starting over and having like a refresher, and then moving forward.
Yeah, we build it into the practice plans
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and just kind of go from there. So
It's like a back to school.
Oh yeah.
Reorganization there. Now, you guys have quite a bit of events coming up here in the spring. If you guys would talk about those. And can we get involved? I know that we're kind of in lockdown, but are there volunteering opportunities? Some high schoolers or some individuals in college that may be wanting to work with Lakeshore or be involved. It sounds like volunteering is the way to go.
Yeah, volunteering definitely is. And we have a volunteer coordinator here at Lakeshore that if anyone wants to volunteer, they can get connected with. And you can find that on our website as well, those opportunities. But as far as tournaments, I'll let Rob start on our first one.
March 5th and 6th is our Southeastern Conference Youth Wheelchair Basketball Tournament. So teams from, and correct me if I might miss basically Mississippi all the way to like North Carolina, all throughout the South. It's our conference wheelchair basketball tournament for our varsity athletes and then our teams and then our prep teams as well.
What's the next one after that?
Mine will be the next one. It's March 26th through 27th, and it's Power Soccer League Day. So we're going to invite, I think it's going to be a total of 6 teams. So our adult team, which is Lakeshore Power, and our youth team, Lakeshore Force, will be playing. So that's kind of our home tournament, so our crowd can come in and support our athletes. We also have teams coming from St. Louis. We have teams coming from Atlanta and Jacksonville.
Gotcha. And what would be the next one after that?
Well, I guess mine would actually be the
This
first.
is actually the first one in February.
Mine's in February,
I thought about that afterwards.
The fourth.
Sorry.
It's Demolition Derby, which is our wheelchair rugby tournament. And we have about 10 to 12 teams coming in, kind of like the Texas, DC, Florida, kind of all over.
Yeah.
Just because rugby, it is more of a spaced out kind of thing. So there are teams all over, and they will all kind of travel in. And what did I say?
We got the 4th.
4th through the 6th of February. And
4 Nations. So, and also as far as spectators with the
Yeah.
tournaments, we do allow spectators as long as they're fully masked. We normally put all that information out on our website and on our social media pages.
Are you guys
it
doing
should
it?
come out closer to the
Yeah,
tournaments as
yeah.
well, especially with things still changing. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that happens every week.
Oh yeah.
It's something new every
Definitely
week.
I mean,
does.
we've seen tournaments
Cancel-
say no
yeah.
spectators.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
really?
So they've just had to live stream,
Yeah.
and so that's something. I don't know.
I
I don't even
Yeah.
know the plans, but
We're hoping to
Twitter.
get a press pass so we
Yeah.
can see Mr.
Yeah.
Beasy and Mr. Lujano about some of these events. We think it would be cool because we don't do as many like sporting events, but we think it would be really cool to have one or two people kind of commentating on the sport as we're going and do like a game or two from each of these events that are coming up. So we hope to get a press pass.
I
in.
think these three will help you commentate on the. Yeah,
because that's
You
what
see, I took myself right out of that.
because I don't know much about it, and so I'm going to be like, well, what's that? What's that? And so I need someone here that's going to be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, they're doing this now or that. means
We'll
that.
get our other coworker to do that.
So we hope to be there for all of those events that are coming up there. What is the most popular sport? What do you see the biggest enrollment in? And does that differ by age? Like if kids are starting, I guess if you look at sports and youngsters, a lot of them are getting into like football, a lot of them are getting into baseball. Are there kind of those for adaptive sports?
I think I'm kind of biased just because I am involved with wheelchair basketball, so I'm definitely going to say wheelchair basketball.
Yeah.
But if anybody disagrees, but
I would say that.
It's
but I
definitely,
think-
well, I'm pretty sure it's definitely basketball. But I mean, obviously, wheelchair rugby. If you're into like individual sports, there's always wheelchair tennis.
And swimming.
And
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We have a swim team that's continuing to grow. And
Yeah,
so-
shout out to Emily Mallard. She's
Yeah,
always posted on
definitely.
Facebook about the winners and traveling.
Oh, yeah.
And so I keep up with that a little bit. It's pretty cool.
yeah, she's done an amazing job with our swimmers.
Yeah. And what's the furthest team that's traveled to an event at Lakeshore?
I
Is
mean,
it
if
like
we're
an
talking
Alaskan team?
international, we
Yeah.
do have
Yeah,
international
we-
teams, and
Yeah.
they come pretty far.
Yeah.
But
What about here in the U.S. for like high school age?
So for high school age, right now for the SEC tournament that Rob's running, we have a team. Is it Brooks, I believe, or no? Maybe the Fort Lauderdale team would be the furthest. So yeah, Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Within our division, so that's probably like 11 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Now, when everybody gets together, you mentioned that you're meeting people from a different state.
Mm-hmm.
You're making those connections. I remember one of the most fun things. So I went out to nationals in high school for wrestling, and that was in Fargo, North Dakota. Now, are you guys familiar with wrestling? You ever watched any like high school wrestling or college
Yes.
wrestling? You laugh when you say that. What's so funny?
no.
Backstory
Yeah.
there. I'll have to get that one after we stop going live. But you wear these singlets. That's the uniform that you wear when you compete. And after the competition, you would meet people from all over the country and kind of hit it off. And then you would trade your singlets, kind of like jerseys get traded at the end of soccer matches. What do you? This is like one of the.
Sorry, I can't.
She has so many stories on it. No, I'm kidding. No.
Go ahead. You got
Oh no, I that story.
so you would trade these singlets, and I would give a Pennsylvania because it was each state had their own team. I would give the Pennsylvania singlet. Maybe I get a Colorado back or something like that. What are you guys seeing when all these different teams from different states come together?
So I know with Lakeshore we don't trade jerseys, only because the Lakeshore we do provide our jerseys and kind of reuse them every year. But I think just, them getting together, especially at youth tournaments, for example. Charlotte is big on this when they have their youth tournament as well. We all do games like Shark, Seminoles, and things like that, where all the kids get together and they play these games in between these recreational games in between the actual basketball games, and that is big with them and getting those kids together, playing together, and that camaraderie, and
That.
so stuff like that.
I'm kind of new to it, but I would say like the T-shirts that the different tournaments give out, and so like I feel like that's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
When you go to one tournament and say, "Oh, you were there too. I was there," and it kind of starts a relationship.
I remember you
building.
checked me or something like that.
Because a lot of the teams, they travel to the same tournaments, and so you get to see the same people over and over. Because I actually filled in for Lauren at one of the youth tournaments earlier this year. Well, I guess last year now. But a lot of people would just come up and start talking to us because they know Lakeshore. And they're like, oh, who are you? I haven't met you before, but you're at Lakeshore. And they knew the team. So that kind of started that conversation between me and people with other teams. So.
Yeah, I feel like Lakeshore pulls a lot of weight in the disability community in general and Paralympics. It's definitely something that you can toss in there and people are like, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say what's pretty cool about the shirts as well is seeing, we just had a U23, the USA men's camp here, and seeing some of the junior athletes who were participating in that, those tryouts having on our tournament shirts.
Really?
So that was pretty cool because they're at that high level, that elite level, and seeing those shirts on them. So.
And seeing all the colors that have already been used.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's always the problem is what color did we use last year?
Yeah.
What's going to be this year?
Is blue really okay?
Yeah.
4 years in a row.
But what shade of blue?
What are you guys going with this year?
That's a secret.
This is so many secrets over here. Wrestling secrets, shirt secrets.
Look, I can't give it away yet. There are still so many tournaments.
When you say youth, youth basketball, what age are these kids typically getting involved in sports?
So it varies. I think one of the youngest that I've had on my prep team was 6 years old.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So,
amazing.
Yeah, and that's always I think it's good to get involved when you're younger. Instead of kind of being at that older age. I mean, it's never too late to get involved, but it's nice when you get involved when you're younger and you've been in the sport. Yeah,
similar to you.
Exactly.
Kind of go through what you go through.
Yeah.
And then what would be, so if someone's really getting involved in sports at a young age, really enjoys it and wants it to be a part of, their journey, what does that process look like? So you can go start at Lakeshore. Is there organized adaptive sports in high schools around here? Is it mainly just organizations like Lakeshore?
So it's, for the most part, I think organizations like Lakeshore. And I can't say, I know we haven't talked about track and field much, but that is more of an individual sport, and Lakeshore and swimming. Lakeshore has been kind of working with the Alabama High School Athletics Association, trying to get more individuals in their school participating on their high school track and field teams and swim teams and things like that.
Tennis is around that too.
Yeah. Trying to get it more into a broader school system there.
Yeah, and even going into college, there are more organized colleges.
That's what
at the
I was
collegiate level.
I'm on the board of the USTA wheelchair tennis committee, and we are working on getting it into high schools because there are some states, like I think Illinois maybe?
Yeah, Illinois.
Has swimming as part of, like, you can go, even with a disability, you can join a swim team.
Yeah.
And so other sports, I think, are trying to pave that way. It just is a little more difficult than people might think.
Yeah, because those are big decisions. Let's say you really were involved in a sport and wanted to continue doing that, and you were moving from high school to college. If that college didn't have that sport, you would want to go to a college close to an organization like Lakeshore so you could still be involved. But it's sounding like the outreach, there's going to be more opportunities in the traditional school system for individuals to compete with adaptive sports.
Hopefully,
Is the
soon.
push.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And
there are quite a few colleges around. I know Rob has actually played at the collegiate level as well. And there are quite a few colleges around who offer those sports.
Tell us a little bit about that. Did you decide?
Sorry, Rob.
Did you decide?
I played on a varsity team. I started playing in high school, so I didn't start when 6 or 7. But I was still fortunate enough to have nationals here for 2 years. I got recruited to go to the University of Wisconsin Whitewater. Go Warhawks! And so I was fortunate enough. I got my degree. Very proud of that, and I got to play college wheelchair basketball for 5 years, and greatest time of my life.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities, not just with basketball, but there's just a lot more opportunities now.
Was that one of the deciding factors to go to Wisconsin? Was the opportunity to play?
I love the snow.
Yeah.
I play college ball. I mean that's been my love, my passion. Ever since I saw wheelchair basketball for the first time. And my mom was always like, you could always come back. to California. So I said, why not? So I did it, and it was the greatest decision of my life.
Yeah, that you go from like maybe the first month, you're like, yeah, Mom, I kind of miss it, Callie. And then after the second month, it's like, I'm staying here. I'm good. Your mom's like, when you coming home? I kind of did this. Yeah, I kind of did the same thing where I really wanted to compete at the collegiate level. And I only applied to 3 schools. I applied to East Stroudsburg, which was a small state school in Pennsylvania. And then I applied to Penn State, and I applied to University of Pittsburgh. And I got into all 3, and I decided to go to East Stroudsburg, which is also D1, but I knew I could start there earlier. And I started my sophomore year, redshirt freshman year. And that was a decision. It was a common school. I went for education, become a high school teacher, but a little bit different line of work now. And so that was what it meant that much to me. Sports meant that much to me that I wanted to continue that, and I wanted to continue that camaraderie. So I think being involved is a big thing there. Now, what happens after high school? Or high school, then college, and then what happens after college? Because it's tough. A lot of people stop. It's like meeting new people after you get out of school. If you don't meet them at work, it's kind of tough sometimes. So to continue those sports, you can keep striving. There are Paralympics there. Can someone compete, not necessarily going for the Paralympics, but just in organized sports after college?
Definitely, and that's where Rob coaches adult.
Yeah. The biggest thing is just finding opportunities to stay active. And I mean, there's people that drive hours just to come to practice.
Yeah.
And it's just really important to stay active and find a place that you really enjoy for all the reasons we talked about.
Mm-hmm. Driving a few hours for practice. I have a couple people that drive up from Montgomery to go to hockey practice. And it's like, I don't know if I could do it. I got really lucky when I moved to Birmingham. I found a rink. I'm like, they have a rink in Birmingham. What are some questions that I'm not asking or we're not talking about for families? Maybe parents are like, yeah, I would love for my child to get involved, but I'm a little bit nervous to not be there by their side the whole time. Have you ever come across that?
So I think we have encountered parents who are, kind of nervous for their kids. But one of the good things about, especially with youth sports and their parents, we kind of have like a family. And so, those parents get to meet other parents of kids with disabilities, and they get to learn, we're here, the ins and the outs, and, there's no reason to be afraid. They may get bumped in a chair. They're going to be all right, and just kind of giving them the things to expect and stuff like that. So,
I mean, once they come through the doors here,
yeah,
they have a sense of independence.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what we push. We push like, you are able to do things on your own. It might be slower, it might take a little more effort, but you can do it by yourself. And I think it also allows the parents to see it too.
Yeah, there's a growth opportunity there.
I mean, for instance, we'll have some parents that will push their kid into the building, but once they get into the building, the kid knows, no, I have to push myself in there, or Coach Lauren's coming after me.
And so we also, we've had kids who, a while back, coaching sports, that would actually be afraid to hop curbs or, afraid to go down a ramp on their own and things like that. But being around the sport and seeing, or just being in the building and seeing other people do those types of things, they feel more comfortable. I've seen adults who are afraid of it, but just being around the sport, it makes them way more comfortable. So.
And I notice the same thing for me. Like if I'm skating with somebody that's better than me, my game goes up. So kind of just seeing that modeling there and being in the environment allows for that self-advocacy, that growth, that confidence, as we've been talking about, kind of carries over outside of Lakeshore into everyday, what you're doing outside of Lakeshore. What else are we not talking about that either an individual that's thinking about getting involved in sports, or a parent or family member thinking about joining Lakeshore for the recreation and athletics?
I mean, I think we have so many things to offer.
Definitely.
I mean, we do have organized sports, but we also have daily programs that you can just walk up to. I know Isia does bocce, I do cycling.
After school programs
After
for the
school,
kids.
We've got kids programs, the pool. I mean, there are classes that start at 6 months?
Yeah. And even if they're not ready for their athletic experience, they can do a recreational course, recreational basketball or things like that. Caroline does the adult.
Right.
So it's like a
So we'll
drop-in.
have a pick. I mean, we're about to start pickleball.
Yeah.
And so that will be Monday nights, and you can just come. We did a tennis clinic, and you could have just come. So
I feel like there's something to do kind of every night of the week here,
yes,
Yeah.
which is really cool because
except Sunday. So.
Yeah.
oh, that's super cool. Are there any deadlines that anybody should be familiar with that it's like you have to register now?
We usually put those out. I mean, we use a lot of job forms to sign up for things, and on there it'll say do this, and we have a weekly update that goes out to our members who have, or I guess signed up or whatever, and that will have different dates and links and what they need to be aware of that's happening, and that goes out every week. So
And if they're not a member of Lakeshore, like you said, they can check the website.
the website, yeah.
And as we kind of come to a close here, we've been talking a lot of everything that you guys are doing and the success. What are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have in the next year?
And I think COVID.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that is definitely the
I
biggest
think-
challenge.
I mean, I think we've seen it since we've been here, but getting numbers back to what they were before the pandemic, and I guess also having people feel comfortable or completely comfortable being here with numbers continuing to increase. So.
And I feel like that's kind of like I was supposed to go to Washington this weekend. I was going to take my grandmother there. She's driven in all the states except for 2. And she's 78 now. So we were going to go out to Seattle, and then we are going to drive down to Portland so she could do Washington, Seattle. And I bought the tickets like a month and a half ago. And then this Omicron stuff pops up and all this stuff. And I'm just going, Grandma, I don't think you should be in an airplane right now. So it's tough. It's like you want to do it, but should I type of
It's
thing.
just so unknown, and I think that's kind of what we're all struggling with. What is the best decision? What is the right decision? And we're really lucky to be in such a good team setting that we can all kind of talk through it and make the best decision for the team and for everyone else.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't said that you guys think an individual or a family member could benefit from hearing?
Can't think of anything else.
I mean, try every sport,
Yeah.
try
Yeah,
anything.
definitely,
Even
yeah.
if it's not a sport, there's so many things that you can try and
Yeah,
get
definitely.
out there and find people.
I think it's just, email or call. Just ask us, and we can, even if we don't have it here, we can, try to find the resource for you to help.
Yeah.
Make that first step. Make that call, set up that appointment, come in and check it out. That's what we did for my family member. I made an appointment with Emily to do an orientation with the pool, and that's how my family member got involved. One thing I'd like to see a little bit more of is sled hockey. I've never seen it here in Pelham.
Rob, get it started.
Well, the rink.
Yeah, Pelham.
In Pelham.
Yeah, Oak Mountain, yeah.
We have the sleds as well. So.
Yeah.
How many sleds do you have? Enough for like?
Probably about 10.
10.
Yeah.
That's enough for a full team.
Yeah.
You got 5 on the ice and 5.
And so check this, the cool things about our sleds. You can take the blades off and put wheels on there and play it out here on the court.
That's pretty cool. Do you guys do that?
We, not recently, but we have in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of the Paralympics and the sled hockey when those are on. And they're actually, are they coming up? Because the Winter Olympics are coming up in Beijing, I think. So hopefully there'll be some there.
Right.
Cool. Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day and being with us and sharing all that you and Lakeshore do here. So, and I would say to the community, if you're thinking about getting involved and being active, Lakeshore is definitely the place to be here in Birmingham. And I would recommend joining a team. I think it holds me accountable. I got to go and play every Sunday on the adult, and it makes me practice throughout the week. So I would join a team, a very friendly team members here that will get you started. So just give them a call. Come knocking. That's all for today. We're going to go ahead and let Clifton take us out. And we can look at our cameras and say, see you guys next time.
See you guys next time.